You thought we were done with the stitch party, but we are turning it into a clutch. So let me walk you through the process. First of all, you're going to need your lovely canvas already stitched. And then you're going to need a zipper of some sort, some interfacing. This is Pellon SF 101. And then you're going to need 2 lining pieces. I just cut this from a random fat quarter I had. And then you'll need a backing piece the same size as a lining piece. I got a little bougie and quilted this on some Annie's Soft and Stable, but you can definitely use interfacing the SF101 on your piece of fabric if you wanted to. Now for measurements, what I'm doing is I'm adding 3/8 of an inch to either side. So I marked that in my blue pen there. And I actually did 2 turn rows around this entire canvas, just kept it in the same color of each square because I didn't want to lose the entire square that we had stitched. So I know I want to stitch in between those 2 rows with my interfacing, and that's going to be my guide so I don't lose all of my stitching. So anyways, just measure your canvas, measure twice, cut once. So I already marked that, and then I'm just cutting it out, which is the most heart-wrenching part of finishing. And then I'm just remeasuring, making sure that my math lines up. So for 13 mesh, you're going to need a piece of fabric that is 10.5 inches by 7 1/8 inches. And I'll put the measurements here for 18 mesh. I just didn't math that out yet. So again, you'll need 2 lining pieces and then your backing piece. So I'm just making sure that everything lines up before we start sewing. So for the zipper size, you can keep it the length of the canvas, so you can make it 10.5 inches, or just cut off a little bit. I kind of honestly messed up on my mathing here, and I cut this at 9.5, so I took an inch off when I actually needed to only take 3/4 inch off. So I kind of had to smoosh this a little bit when I sewed near the zipper. But anyways, this is just me showing that I sewed the interfacing 1 stitch in on the canvas, so it caught the stitching, but it is not through the entire square. And then the first part about adding the zipper on is you're going to have it right sides together. So right sides together on the backing piece, and make sure that it's centered. And then you're going to add the lining piece on top of the zipper, and you're going to sew this sandwich together. So you're going to have the lining piece facing down, so right side onto the wrong side of the zipper. And so once you have your sandwich, you're going to want to sew with, I think I did 3/8 inch seam allowance, but as close to the edge of the zipper as possible. And so you'll see that's the final product. And then if you press this, now you can see that you have the right side of the zipper facing up. And then we're going to top stitch just the backing piece. Do not top stitch the lining piece. So that's what I'm showing you here. I just did kind of a 1/8 of an inch next to the zipper, just to make sure that everything's tacked down very nicely. So then the next part of this is securing the zipper to our stitch party canvas. So once again, you're going to want the right side of the zipper, or the top part of the zipper, facing the stitch party canvas. And here I'm just lining it up, so the stitch line that I make next to the zipper is going to go in between that stitch line that I already stitched between those 2 turn rows. So I'm not over stitching on any part of my canvas. And then same deal as the back side of the pouch, we're going to put the lining fabric right side down and then stitch that sandwich all together. So now that I've stitched the zipper on securely, I'm going to again top stitch just the stitch party canvas, not the lining, You really don't want to catch the lining in your top stitch. So again, when I top stitch, I just want to make sure I'm not stitching into my stitch party canvas, so I'm just going to be sewing along the very top line there just to tack it down. And then now we are going to sew everything together. So we're going to sew the lining fabric together, doing a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and I'm just marking for myself to make sure that I'm leaving an opening in the lining fabric, but you can stitch all the way around on your stitch party and background canvas. Also, don't be stupid like me and make sure that before you do anything on this, that your zipper is pulled halfway open, because it'll make turning this open a lot easier. So now that I've stitched everything together, I'm just reducing some bulk by cutting the corners, and then now the hard part of turning it open. So you're just gonna have to really get in there and mangle it, and I promise you your canvas will be fine. You just have to take it slowly and make sure that you push all your corners out before you stitch your lining closed, because this is the only time you're going to make sure you pop all your corners. So that's why we reduce bulk and just take your time. With a soft and stable on the back, it really does make it a little bit more difficult, but if you just had interfacing on your backing fabric, it would probably be a little bit more flexible and easier to turn out. But anyways, once you turn it out, there you go, you're done. There she is, she's beautiful. We got that lining, and then all you have to do with that hole is you just have to top stitch it closed. So just kind of fold it over, maybe a 3/8 inch seam allowance there, and just stitch that hole closed. And doesn't matter if it's pretty or not, because no one's going to see it, probably not even you, once there's stuff in this clutch. So don't get too into perfectionism. And once you've stitched your lining part closed, all you have to do is put that back in there, fold out the corners a little bit so everything's matching, and then there you have it. That's your nice little easy clutch finish, and there she is. So I'm so excited to be able to put this on display and be able to look at our stitch party all year round. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on this finishing.